This is Mr. Escamilla, and today I'm going to be guiding you through the GMetrix Premiere Pro practice exams. For our class, we're going to make sure we click on the 2020 class, click on Premiere Pro, and I have assigned you all these two practice exams. This is going to be the practice exam guide for the first practice exam. So I am allowing you to do this on training mode. The benefit of training mode is you do get a help button. The help button is awesome and amazing because it allows you to get a set of steps that show you how to complete the answer. Some of you are very visual though. Sometimes it'll tell you to click on a panel or a button and you're not sure where that panel or button is. So that's why this guide exists, to show you step by step what you need to do. By completing these tasks, you're going to be getting prepared for the certification test that we'll be taking very soon. You do want to try to commit a lot of these steps to memory. So hopefully by us doing this together, it'll help you out. So let's go ahead and get started here. For this first question, we're going to want to fill in the blank. The following image represents a project being archived using the sequence as the source and QuickTime as format, and it will rename media files to match clip names. You can click next and that'll be the correct answer. That's easy to get the correct answer just by looking at the help button there. All right, the next question says, to export a single frame from the sequence as a JPEG image, you would change which of the following options? And as you can see from our help button here, you would in fact change the format to export as a JPEG. So these first few ones are pretty simple, especially if you're using that help button. It pretty much gives you the answers. So let's go ahead and look at this next one here. It says, select the essential graphics option that will change the vertical spacing between lines of text. The answer to that one is going to be leading. That is the spacing between the lines of text. I'm going to go ahead and click next here. That is correct. All right, here's our first task question. We're wanting to trim this guitar clip down to 5 seconds without leaving any gaps in the sequence, and it wants us to not change the duration, that means the length, of either of these clips. So to do that, we're gonna need to grab our Ripple Edit tool. So from the Tools panel here, you're gonna want to hover until you find the one that says Ripple Edit tool. Now, our guitar clip right now is, if I hover over here, you'll see it is 10 seconds long. We want this to be 5 seconds. And the reason we're using the Ripple Edit tool as opposed to just grabbing our selection tool and making this 5 seconds is because of this key part here that says that we want to make sure that we do not have any gaps in the sequence. If you did not care if there was a gap, then sure, you could use the selection tool. But the awesome thing about the Ripple Edit tool is that it'll pull both the microphone and the band clip over to the left. So let's go ahead and look at this guitar clip here. I'm gonna go to the end and I'm gonna trim until this duration here that kind of pops up says 5 seconds and 0 frames. So that'll be 500 there at the end. That should be correct. As soon as you've done that, you've successfully trimmed this clip down to 5 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and click next. That is correct. Here is the next question. It says, without changing the center position, set the scale of the microphone clip to 150. So if we go here to this microphone, we want to increase its size. By default, the size is set to 100%. We're going to change this to 150. So the way you do that is you're going to click on the clip and you need to make sure your effect controls panel is open. If it's not open, you might need to click on window and go to effect controls. And with this microphone clip selected, we're going to adjust the scale. You're going to change this to 150. So I'm going to do that. And I want you to notice how the microphone increases in size. As soon as you do that, you should be able to click next, and that will be the correct answer for this one. Moving on to task 6, it tells us here to add a single adjustment layer over all clips in the sequence and add a tint color correction to the adjustment layer. In order to do that, you're going to click the new item button and click on the adjustment layer, and you're going to click OK. Now, the next step is you're going to want to drag this adjustment layer to track 2, and you're going to want to extend this to where it covers all of these clips that are underneath it. Now, what's the purpose of an adjustment layer, and why do we have it here? Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you thought of that. An adjustment layer allows us to throw effects on it, and it will affect all the clips under it. So instead of me having to add an effect 3 different times to each of these clips, I can just add it once to this adjustment layer, and it'll affect inherently all the clips underneath it. So our last step is to add the effect that this question tasks us with, which is to add a tint color. So in order to do that, I am going to go to my effects panel, and you're just going to want to search here for tint, and that will pop up that effect. And so now I'm going to drag that to the adjustment layer. And notice now all 3 of these clips have that tint effect. There's a lot of questions like this on the test where it has you grab an effect and throw it onto either a clip or maybe an adjustment layer. So it's really good to know that should you get a question that tells you to add an effect that you know that you need to go to the effects panel and search for that effect here. Moving on, we're going to go to task 7. This question tells us to apply the Lumetri color. Once again, this is an effect to the guitar MP4 clip and change the creative look to SL Blue Moon. So we're going to go to our effects panel once again, and you're going to search for Lumetri color. I'm going to just type color. That'll pop this one up here, and I'm going to drag it to the guitar clip because that's what our question tells us to do. Now it wants us to change the creative look to SL Blue Moon. If you've added an effect and then it tells you to change something about it, that is going to be located in the effect controls. These are 2 totally different panels. You have your effects, which is typically located down here, as well as your effect controls, which is located up here. And this allows you to change the effect settings and what it does. So we've added this Lumetri color effect, which doesn't look like it does anything right now. But once we change the creative look, which is right here, to SL Blue Moon, you're going to notice that this gets a blue tint added to it, and that's exactly what you need to do. So I'm going to scroll down here and look for SL Blue Moon, which is going to be here actually. So once again, this is in the effect controls panel. Under Lumetri color, you have to click this little triangle next to the creative section, and then you'll be able to click on SL Blue Moon. Notice this now has a blue tint to it. If I turn this off, it's warmer. If I turn it back on, it's colder. That should be the correct answer. So I'm going to go ahead and click next, and we're on to task 8. Here's our next task. It says from 15 to 20 seconds, fade out the audio track with the volume settings. Use the timeline markers for reference. So to get this question correct, we're going to go to 15 seconds on the timeline, and I'm going to click on the audio, and you need to make sure that down here this is expanded. If it's not, you can double click on it. The reason why it needs to be expanded is because you need to click on this Add Remove Keyframe button. Also, you can only click on this button if the audio is selected. Notice if I don't have this audio selected, it won't let me click on that button. It's grayed out. So I'm going to click on the audio, then click on the Add Remove Keyframe. Once again, make sure you're at 15 seconds on the timeline, because what we're doing is we're fading the audio out, but we don't want it to start until the end here at the 15-second mark. So I'm going to click Add Remove Keyframe. Then we're going to want to go to 20 seconds on the timeline. So I'm going to type here 20 by typing the number 2000. And I'm going to add another keyframe. Notice we have another little diamond here. Now I'm going to drag this down, and the key part here is you want this to be at 20 seconds. So notice I have like 2008 here, 1916. I'm going to want to slowly move my mouse until it's at -20, and this says, whoops, and that it says like negative volume. Let me try that one more time. I'm going to just undo and so I'm going to go all the way down, and that should do it. I'm going to go ahead and click next. Okay, that counted it as correct. Moving on to task 9 now. This wants us to animate the opacity of the star's one layer to fade out from 100% to 0%, starting at 5 seconds and ending at 6 seconds. So what we're doing is we are wanting this video of the stars to fade out. Notice right now if I play it, it simply cuts immediately to this next clip. We don't want that to happen. We want this to fade. Notice this video is overlapped with this one, so if this starts fading at 5 seconds, it's going to reveal the stars 2 clip underneath it. So how do we do that? Well, we need to go to the 5-second mark on the timeline. We need to make sure that we have stars 1 selected. And now in the effect controls area, you're going to want to make sure that the opacity category is open. If it's not, you can click this little triangle, and we're going to want to click on this little toggle animation button. And you'll notice that a keyframe was created. This tells you that Premiere Pro is prepared to animate as soon as it hits its first diamond. But nothing's changing right now because we don't have another keyframe that differs. So I'm going to go to the 6-second mark on the timeline. I'm going to type 600. And now I'm going to change the opacity to 0. And now notice another diamond was created here. And now when I play this video, it slowly fades out into the next clip. Awesome, right? Okay, moving on to the next one. This tells us to crop the top of the video clip by 5% and the bottom by 5% using the crop, what is that? Effect. So that tells you that you need to go to your effects. Here, you're going to type the word crop, and you're going to want to throw that onto the oven clip. Now, how do you edit the effect? Once again, remember I told you this was something common that you need to be familiar with. You're going to go to the effect controls, and we need to crop the top by 5%. It says crop the top of the video by 5% as well as the bottom. So over here, you're going to want to make sure under the crop effect, you're going to type 5, and then for the bottom, you'll type 5 as well. And now notice here, this now has the black bars at the top and the bottom. Click next, that should be correct. Next question says, with the type tool, create a title that says sweet. So I'm going to click on this text tool here, and I'm going to put my playhead at the beginning and type the word sweet with a capital S and an exclamation point. Now, in order to edit text, you're going to need to bring up your Essential Graphics panel, and you need to go to the Edit category. Now, we're going to select these words here, and it tells us that we want the font Arial. So here, you'll look for Arial. She's usually under the C, but in this case, she's in the font drop-down box. So we're going to click on Arial, and this says here that it needs to have a size of 250. So I'm going to type 250 here, and it gets bigger. Next, this says it needs to have a stroke of 5. So you're just adjusting text properties here. You're going to turn the stroke on there in the appearance menu, type 5. And we also want to disable the fill. We just want this stroke and this nice see-through text. The last step, it says it wants to align the text to the bottom left. So to change the alignment, you're going to be here in this Align and Transform panel. And you can hover until you see Align Bottom and Align Left. So you need to click those two buttons. So this question does require a lot of you because there's a lot of things it asks you to do, but they're pretty simple things. The last thing it tells you to do is to make sure that the duration is the same as the clip under it. My clip is a hair shorter, so I need to get the edge of the clip and drag it just a little bit until it's perfectly matched up with the oven clip. If I click next, that should be counted as correct, and we'll move on to task 12. Here we have another easy question. This is about shotgun microphone that has a narrow pickup pattern, whereas a lavalier microphone is going to have a small microphone in general used for recording a close-up. Task 13, this says to create a new sequence with the Street Crossing 26 clip. It wants us to rename the sequence close-up and move it out of this footage bin. So you're going to take the Street Crossing 26, throw it over into the timeline. Notice it makes a new sequence here, and it wants us to rename this one close-up. I've seen some people renaming the clip here close-up, and you don't need to do that. You need to rename the sequence close-up. And I know this is the sequence because of that little icon right there. Now the last step is it wants us to take this out of the footage bin and put it into our project bin. So the easiest way to do that is to click it, drag up here where the project bin is, and drop it there. And we've successfully done that. I'm going to click next. That should be the correct answer. And we're going to move on to task 14. This says change the auto save settings to save every 10 minutes. Y'all just have to memorize this. This is going to be in the Premiere Pro menu. You go to Preferences, click on Auto Save, and here is where you can change it to save every 10 minutes. You'll click OK, and then that should be the correct answer for task 14. Moving on to task 15, it wants us to use all 3 clips in the footage bin to create a multi-camera sequence. You're going to double-click that footage bin, select all 3 of these clips, right-click any one of the clips, and you're going to click Create Multi-Camera Source Sequence. You'll get this pop-up where you're going to need to say that you want to have some custom settings, and it tells you to name this sequence Walking Angles. Make sure you have a capital W, a capital A, and no spaces, and we're going to set the sync point to out points. You can click OK to that, and that should be the correct answer for task 15. Moving on to task 16. We're going to add a marker at 3 seconds on the Stars 3 clip. So I'm going to double click the Stars 3 clip here in the timeline, and I'm going to make sure that this time is at 3 seconds and click the Add Marker button. Notice a marker was created. Then you'll double click on the marker, and you're going to name this Start Credits and make sure that it has a duration of 1 second, and then you'll click OK. Notice this note here is longer, and that should be the correct answer. Moving on to task 17, this tells us to remove any gaps in the sequence without changing the length of any clip. You're going to click on this gap, click delete, and that is the easiest question in this whole thing. Click next, and you should get that correct. Task 18 tells us to place all 3 video clips from the footage bin into a successive sequence on the same track. Set Street Crossing as the first clip, Street Crossing 28 is the second, and Street Crossing 27 is the third. So you'll just throw Street Crossing 26 over here in the timeline, and then follow the order. Street Crossing 28 is next, and then Street Crossing 27 is last. Now you'll click next, and that should be counted as correct. Moving on to task 19, it wants us to apply a constant gain to the first 2 seconds of the audio clip. That is going to be an effect that is an audio effect over here. You're going to want to make sure there's no search term. you pull down the audio transitions folder. You're going to want to open the crossfade folder, and you're going to want to drag this constant gain effect over here on the audio. Now, by default, this gain is only 1 second long. And how long does the question want us to do it? If you read carefully, it's 2 seconds. So I'm going to take this effect and drag it until you see a duration of 200. That's 2 seconds and 0 frames. And that should be the correct answer. This effect fades the audio in. Instead of it starting it immediately, it slowly fades in, which is a nice subtle way to have that happen. All right, task 20. This wants us to rename oven MP4 to cookies and change its label color to teal. So what you'll do is here in the project panel, we're going to click rename, which is right here. And I'm going to name it cookies. And now the last step is I'm going to right click this label and go to label and change it to teal. And I've successfully changed the name and the label of that clip. Moving on to task 21. It says here, without making any extra audio tracks, make an additional video track in the sequence above the video 2 track and name it extra track. So to do that, you're going to need to right click here and go to add tracks. We want 1 video track and 0 audio tracks. Now, to rename this track, it needs to be expanded. So you have to double click here, right click, and push rename. And what does it want us to rename this 3rd track to? It wants us to rename it extra track. So that's what I'm going to type here. Extra, because I'm extra, extra track. And now I'll go ahead and click next, and that should be the correct answer for this one. Moving on to number 22, this wants us to delete all image files in the videos bin. So that's pretty simple. We're here in the videos bin. Anything that is a JPEG or PNG is your images. These MP4s are video clips, so you're going to keep those there. You can hold Command on your keyboard, which is immediately to the left of your space bar, and select all 3 pictures, throw them into your trash can, and you should get this question correct after deleting those 3 image files. Moving on to task 23, it's a word problem. You can just fill in the blank with what it tells you to here. And that should be the correct answer. I would recommend reading that. I'm speed running right now. I have 8 minutes till the end of this time I have to record this video. Okay, next question says match and link audio clips for video 1 and video 2 with their original video clips. So for this question, we have audio that needs to be linked up. We're going to hover over an audio clip to see if it's the original file name of video 1. So if I hover over here, that's the audio of video 3. If I hover over here, this is the audio of video 2, but it's separated from video 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this audio to under video 2, and I'm going to link these together. So now these move as a pair. And we need to do the same thing for video 1. I'm assuming that's what this is. There it is, video 1, audio. So I need to move this to the beginning. And I'm going to link those up by right-clicking and selecting link. And that should be the correct answer. Moving on to task 25, we're almost done with this test. We're going to move the video 3 audio track over to start at 32 seconds without moving the video 3 video track. So in order to do that, we need to go to 32 seconds into the timeline to know where we need to place this audio track at. It's going to be basically towards the end of the sequence. However, the video 3 track is linked currently to the video 3 video. So we need to unlink them. So I'm going to right click the video 3 clip and select unlink. And now I can take this clip and move it to start at that 32-second mark. And that should be the correct answer. Moving on to task 26. This just wants us to drag and match the correct option to complete the statement. You're going to drag merged layers here, and that should be the correct answer. Moving on to task 27, this wants us to drag and match each of these tools to its definition. So the selection tool is going to be select, move, and trim. The track select forward tool is going to be select all clips in the sequence. Ripple edit tool starts with trim a clip without leaving gaps. The razor tool is a simple one that simply splits a clip. The slip tool slips a clip's in and out points. The pen tool adds keyframes. The hand tool navigates. And then the type tool clearly creates a custom text layer. That should be the correct answer. All right, we got 4 more, and I have 5 minutes left to do this. So this is a drag and match question. So this is going to represent depth of field. Notice the background's blurry. This is going to be the rule of thirds, and this is going to be a slow shutter speed. We're on task 29 now. Drag each function to its tool. If I click this will basically tell you where everything goes. So we have here the rate stretch tool speeds or slows down a clip. That's going to go down here. You have the slip tool, which slip a clip's in and out point. That's going to be over here. And then you have the rolling edit tool, which moves the out point of a clip and the in point of the next clip. That should be correct. We got 2 more. This here, the target color profile, is not an important question to ask a client when producing a video for them. They don't care about what color profile that you're using. That's your job as a designer or as a videographer to figure out. Last question, the option that displays the post-production steps in the correct order, and the correct answer will be the one that starts with ingest footage. All right, ingest footage, edit video audio, color correction, export video. Those are the post-production steps. All right, I will submit my test to see how I did. I hope you all enjoyed this thorough, quick tutorial of the GMetrix Premiere Pro Practice Exam 1. That's a mighty time right there. I got that done in 25 minutes. If y'all have any questions about this guide or about any of these questions on your test, feel free to raise your hand and let me know, and I'll be happy to help you all out. Once again, this is Mr. Escamilla, and I hope you enjoyed my guide of Premiere Pro Practice Exam 1. Make it a great day or not. The choice is always yours. Make it a good one.